Ethan Ford had spent most of his adult life learning how to survive on almost nothing, patching roofs, delivering groceries, fixing fences, working nights at a gas station, and raising his little daughter Lily with every ounce of strength a man could summon. People whispered behind his back that he was too soft, too gentle, too poor to make it in this world, but Ethan never cared. Lily was the gold he never had to mine. She was the reason he woke up every morning with purpose, even when his pockets were empty and his dreams battered. But fate, unpredictable as ever, crossed his path with Amelia Harrington, an ambitious, sharp-tongued, diamond-dripping lawyer who was used to marble floors, exclusive invitations, and men who could buy her roses flown in from Spain. Amelia met Ethan on a day when her car broke down in the middle of nowhere. Her phone dead, her patience thinner than paper. Ethan had stopped his rusty pickup beside her, offering help with a smile so warm it disarmed her usual defenses. She had expected arrogance, flirtation, or at least some kind of ego, yet he simply asked, "Are you okay, ma'am?" With a sincerity she hadn't felt from anyone in years. That simplicity made her curious. That kindness made her pause. And somehow, impossibly, that moment became the quiet spark that pulled their worlds onto a collision. Of course, neither of them was prepared for. Amelia found herself drawn into Ethan's life like a moth to a flame she didn't understand. She'd tell herself she was only talking to him because he was refreshingly grounded, or because Lily's shy smile softened something inside her she didn't know still existed. But deep down, what attracted her most was the, peace he carried, peace she had never been able to buy with all her wealth and success. She had dated men who owned jets, men who planned weddings on yachts, men who saw her as a trophy more than a person. But Ethan looked at her like he could see the version of herself she had, long buried beneath expectations and pressure. Still, Amelia had a weakness, fear. Fear of losing status, fear of choosing wrong, fear of being used. Her mother had drilled into her since childhood that wealthy women must protect themselves, must never trust a man without money, must always stay one step ahead. So when the relationship began to grow deeper, when Ethan confessed how much he admired her strength, when Lily started calling her Miss Amelia with pure affection, Amelia's fear disguised itself as logic. She told herself she was being smart, responsible, practical. Yet the truth was that she was terrified of loving a man who lived paycheck to paycheck, terrified of risking her image, terrified of trusting a heart that didn't speak the language of money. So one evening, when Ethan nervously took her to the quiet hill behind his old farmhouse, with wildflowers swaying and the sunset bleeding gold across the sky, Amelia knew what was coming before he even reached into his pocket. He spoke softly, voice trembling, telling her how she had brought light into his life, how he wanted Lily to have a mother who loved her as fiercely as sunshine loved the morning. It was the kind of proposal every woman dreamed of, not flashy, not staged, just raw, real, and filled with a love that could move mountains. But Amelia felt her throat tighten, not with joy, but with panic. And so when he finished his heartfelt words and opened a small silver ring he had saved for months to buy, she said yes, but her smile hit a storm. In the following days, she contacted her lawyer friend, drafting a prenuptial agreement thicker than a judge's handbook. She justified each clause with the armor of practicality. It's for protection, it's standard, it's necessary, but beneath those words lay a cruel implication, one that sliced Ethan without her realizing. She didn't trust him. When she finally presented the prenup, Ethan stood there in stunned silence, holding the papers as though they weighed 100 pounds. He'd never imagined her capable of such coldness, not after all they had shared. The document basically declared that if the marriage failed, he would get nothing, not even the home they would build together. It assumed he could take advantage of her. It assumed he had intentions he didn't even know how to form. Ethan didn't yell, didn't argue, didn't accuse. His eyes simply dulled, the light inside dimming as if someone had blown out a candle. "Do they come after your money?" he whispered, voice tight with hurt. Amelia folded her arms, hiding the tremor in her hands. "It's not personal. It's just smart." But Ethan knew it was personal because love without trust was just a contract, pretending to be a relationship. Yet for Lily's future, for the family he dreamed of, he signed the papers. He signed them with quiet dignity, even as his heart cracked like thin ice beneath heavy boots. What Amelia didn't know, what she couldn't have guessed, was that Ethan's late grandfather had left behind a sealed letter and a will filed with an attorney in another state. A will that had never been opened because they could never locate Ethan after the family split years ago. A will that declared Ethan the sole inheritor of the old man's life's fortune. $10 million in land, savings, and gold bonds. Ethan himself didn't know this yet. He thought he was destined for a simple life of honest work. But fate was already shifting the ground beneath them. And soon, very soon, the world would discover just how dangerous it was to judge someone by their wallet instead of their heart. As Ethan tucked the signed prenup into Amelia's hands, he glanced at her with a mixture of aching love and quiet resignation. "I hope one day you trust me," he said softly. Amelia didn't answer. She couldn't. She just stood there, unaware that the contract she thought protected her was about to become the very thing that humbled her and turned the entire world against her when the truth finally surfaced. The morning sunlight spilled through the lace curtains of Amelia's penthouse like a quiet confession, softening the sharp corners of the room that once felt like a symbol of her power. She had always loved the feeling of control signing deals, arguing cases, walking into a courtroom with heels that echoed authority. But ever since Ethan signed that prenup with a calm, wounded dignity, the silence in her home had become unbearable. She kept replaying the moment in her mind. His steady hands, his downcast eyes, the way he forced a smile for her, Sachi even as his heart cracked beneath. The weight of her distrust. She thought the prenup would give her security, but all it had given her was a gnawing ache that followed her everywhere, clinging to her thoughts like fog. Even her parents, who had always pushed her to date within their social circle, noticed her unease, but they interpreted it as Amelia realizing her mistake. Her mother, sipping morning tea, had said coldly, "You should be grateful he didn't make a scene." Men without money usually do. Amelia said nothing, but her heart whispered a truth she wasn't ready to face. Ethan was nothing like the men her mother feared, and maybe that was why he scared her more, because he loved without conditions, while she loved with chains. Meanwhile, miles away, Ethan stood outside a modest attorney's office in a small town he hadn't visited since childhood. He looked down at the letter he received. Unexpectedly, the day before, a letter informing him of a pending legal matter related to his late grandfather. At first, he assumed it was some forgotten piece of paperwork or a minor inheritance of old tools or a patch of land. He had no idea he was stepping into a moment that would flip his entire life and Amelia's assumptions upside down. The attorney, Mr. Williams, was an elderly man with warm eyes and a gentle voice, someone who seemed to recognize Ethan immediately. "You look just like your grandfather," he said, ushering him inside. He was a proud man, stubborn too. "He always said you'd grow up to be something remarkable." Ethan smiled softly. "He always believed in me more than I believed in myself." They sat down, documents spread across the table, and then Mr. Williams revealed the truth. Ethan's grandfather had left behind a fortune, land worth millions, gold bonds, savings accounts untouched for years, investments that had grown like wild vines. Ethan felt the world tilt beneath him. $10 million.